What's going on, everyone? I'm back, and it is that time again. Week 5 is here, and as always, I've got my weekly game picks outright against the spread, along with my locks of the week, so let's get right into it. Kicking off the week on Thursday night, we have got the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots. Colts 1-3 after another brutal loss, this time versus their divisional opponent, the Houston Texans, in overtime, while the Patriots, they took care of the Dolphins in a big way, absolutely crushed them, and I think that is similar to what I said last week, going to be the turning point for the Patriots. I think this is going to be a nice time for them to get on a nice little streak and carry that over towards the late part of the season. But look, when breaking down this game, it's going to be tough for the Colts because they're missing numerous weapons here. T.Y. Hilton, the biggest name offensively. Andrew Luck is going to be relying on a bunch of non-proven wide receivers. Marlon Mack also going to be out. But maybe the biggest loss here, Darius Leonard, the rookie linebacker that's absolutely looked like a stud for the Colts so far. He won't be available. Whereas for the Patriots, wow, they get Julian Edelman back, possibly Tom Brady's favorite target. Rob Gronkowski also looks like he'll be able to play. Josh Gordon, another week in that system. Sony Michel, James White, they all look great. I anticipate this to be another blowout for the Patriots. They're at home. The Colts are just short-handed right now. And I think the Patriots easily win this game by at least double digits. So I like them to win this game outright. As far as the spread goes, -10.5. And since I do see this game going at least to double digits, I'm going to go ahead, take the over, say the Patriots cover as well. Next, we've got the Atlanta Falcons at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you're looking for your weekly shootout, go ahead, circle this game because it has all the makings of a classic. The Falcons, even though they're 1-3, they can put up points with the best of them. They have unfortunately had a couple of brutal losses. Last week included last-second loss versus the Bengals on a game-winning touchdown, while the Steelers at 1-2-1, they've struggled defensively as well. You know, they pretty much got dominated by the Baltimore Ravens since the start of that first quarter, and even though the Steelers have their own set of game breakers, of game changers offensively, they just weren't able to get it done. And honestly, if I'm comparing both of these defenses, I am not too comfortable saying that either one is going to be able to make a stop when it counts. So for that reason, I have to go with the offense that I think is more well-balanced. And even though the Falcons are on the road, I'm picking Atlanta here because, look, to me, the big difference maker is rushing the football. The Falcons are set to get Devonta Freeman back, but look, even while he was hurt, Coleman was doing a very good job as the lead back, while for the Steelers, look, I realize James Conner is no Le'Veon Bell, but nonetheless, Conner is still a talented running back, but the Steelers, these last 2 weeks, they really struggled rushing the football. Maybe it's because of game flow, game situation, but look, there's no excuse for how bad they have looked rushing the football these last couple of weeks, and for that reason, I give the edge to the Falcons here. I fully expect everyone to get in on the scoring here. I think it's going to be a very close game when it's all said and done. I think it comes down to the end of that fourth quarter, but I give the edge to the Atlanta Falcons. I think they win right around by 3 points, maybe by a game-winning field goal. So I like them outright. The spread, Steelers at home, they're favored -3.5. Very close, but I'm going to go ahead, take the under, and say that the Falcons get it by a game-winning field goal. Continuing on, we've got the Tennessee Titans at the Buffalo Bills, and the Titans 3-1, one of the surprise teams so far into this young NFL season, I would say. Nice win versus the Philadelphia Eagles, while the Buffalo Bills stay with one win and add another loss at 1-3 to the Green Bay Packers after they got shut out. Now, for everyone that was so excited when the Bills absolutely blew out the Minnesota Vikings, I think it's safe to say, again, after what we saw versus the Packers, that was a fluke. And even though this is a home game for the Bills, it's going to be pretty straightforward moving on, not only this week, but again, I'm going to continue to say it weeks going forward. The Titans right now are just a more well-balanced team. I think, you know, even though Marcus Mariota isn't an elite quarterback, he is still a lot better, leaps and bounds than Josh Allen. Offensively, the Titans, they have a more well-balanced team. Defensively, they're also better than the Buffalo Bills. So for that reason, it's going to be pretty straightforward. I like the Titans to win this game on the road outright. The spread +3.5 for the Bills, I think that's very low. I can see the Titans winning by at least a touchdown, so I will take the over. Continuing on, we've got a clash of two 3-1 teams, Miami Dolphins at the Cincinnati Bengals. And looking at the Dolphins, I think we saw that maybe last week they got exposed by the New England Patriots because they weren't as good as their record indicated. The New England Patriots were definitely the best team that they played up until that point in the season. And I think now the Cincinnati Bengals probably the second best team that the Miami Dolphins are going to face in this young season. And with the Bengals, look, they went ahead, got an impressive win versus the Atlanta Falcons, but at a cost. Tyler Eifert, that brutal injury, out for the remainder of the year. And another area of concern, the rushing attack. Giovanni Bernard looks to be questionable for that game, while Joe Mixon hasn't been cleared quite yet. So if Mixon isn't cleared, that'll be interesting to see who is going to be the lead back. Personally, I do think he'll get cleared and he will be inserted just fine in that offense, an offense that I think is a lot better than the Miami Dolphins. Look, the interesting part here will be that Miami Dolphins defense versus the Bengals offense, because defensively the Bengals can be taken advantage of. So will the Dolphins be able to make enough stops defensively to hold the Bengals offense in bay? I don't think they will be. So for that reason, I like the Bengals to win this game outright. However, on the spread, -6.5 for the Bengals, even though it's a home game for them, I think that's a little bit too high. I think a guy like Kenny Stills could potentially have a nice game and take advantage of some porous secondary play by the Bengals and go ahead and get some garbage time points late in that game. So for that reason, I'll take the under and say the Dolphins get it on the spread. Next, we have got an AFC divisional clash, the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens 3-1 after going on the road, taking care of the Steelers. Very impressive win, while the Browns, tough loss in overtime to the Raiders, now at 1-2-1. And look, I think this is going to be a game that we shouldn't overthink too much. I realize there's a lot of hype around Baker Mayfield, but man, this Ravens defense, this divisional matchup, usually these are some lower scoring games where the points are hard to come by, and that is going to go ahead and favor the Ravens with that defense that travels well. To me, this is going to be the best defense that Baker Mayfield has gone up against, and I think that the Ravens are going to get several turnovers here, and ultimately, that's going to be the reason why they win this game on the road. Offensively, I actually think the Browns are the better team. I think they have more playmakers than a guy like Jarvis Landry, especially at the running back position as well with Chubb and Carlos Hyde. But like I said, the difference maker is going to be that defense and then the experience of Joe Flacco versus Baker Mayfield. So I like the Ravens to take care of business on the road. I like them outright on the spread. Browns at +2.5. I think that's pretty low. I think the Ravens can comfortably win this game by a field goal, so give me the over. Next up, we have got the Denver Broncos at the New York Jets. The Broncos 2-2 after almost playing spoiler to the perfect season of the Kansas City Chiefs. They had several opportunities. If not for a missed touchdown to Demaryius Thomas by Case Keenum, man, we could have been talking about the Broncos a lot more right now, but instead, they're at 2-2 on the season, while the Jets 1-3 after getting spanked by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And look, the Jets, even though they're at home, they have been all over the map here. And, one game we see some improvement, another game we see some rookie play from Sam Darnold. Fact of the matter is, that's how this entire season is going to be. Now, I do think the Jets get a little bit of a boost here by the fact that they do have this being a home game. I think the Broncos, very tough loss versus the Chiefs. But I will say, I think the Broncos are the better team. Specifically defensively, I think they're going to be able to take advantage again of a young Sam Darnold. I don't think this defense is good as the Jacksonville Jaguars was, but again, they do have some playmakers. Chris Harris is going to be going up most likely against Quincy Enunwa at the slot. I think that's going to take away a lot of targets for Enunwa and limit what Sam Darnold can do here. Offensively, look, Case Keenum has a boatload of weapons with Sanders, Royce Freeman, Lindsey, and Demaryius Thomas. And that Jets defense hasn't exactly been holding up like we thought after week 1. So I give the edge for the most part all around to the Denver Broncos. I wouldn't be surprised, however, if this is a close game, somewhat low scoring, but ultimately I give the edge to the Denver Broncos. I could see this being a 20-17 contest where the Broncos win it late, so I like them outright. As far as the spread, it's actually -0.5 point, so pretty much a pick 'em outright. So for that reason, I am going the Broncos on the spread. Moving on, we have got an NFC divisional clash, the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. Packers, after getting back into the win column by shutting out the Buffalo Bills, stand at 2-1-1, while the Detroit Lions fall to 1-3 after seeing the Dallas Cowboys get a last-second game-winning field goal against them. And look, normally I would say, even though that this is a home game for the Lions, that the Green Bay Packers should win this game comfortably. But man, it looks like they're going to be missing a lot of offensive playmakers potentially. Randall Cobb not looking good, hasn't practiced so far with that hamstring. Geronimo Allison still dealing with that concussion. And now Devontae Adams showing up on some injury reports. Let's see what happens, but man, Aaron Rodgers could potentially be without a lot of his favorite targets. While the Detroit Lions, at least they're looking a little bit better offensively. But when it's all said and done, I do like Aaron Rodgers here more. I give him the edge over the Detroit Lions offense, even if he has to be throwing to his wide receiver number 3, wide receiver number 4. He's still going to have guys like Ty Montgomery and Jimmy Graham around him. They can lean on that rushing attack. So I give the edge to the Green Bay Packers here. I like them to win this game. Aaron Rodgers is the difference, but I do think it'll be closer than some people expect. As far as the spread goes, Lions plus 1.5, so that kind of reflects that thought. But I think the Packers can go ahead, win by 2 or 3 points, so give me the Packers on the spread. Now getting to one of the most intriguing contests this week, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Kansas City Chiefs. Jaguars 3-1, Chiefs still undefeated at 4-0. We have got the elite defense versus the elite offense. Will Patrick Mahomes be able to continue putting on a show? This game's a home game for the Chiefs, so they got a nice advantage there. Jaguars are going to be without Leonard Fournette, so, that is a tough loss for them. But look, TJ Yeldon has filled in nicely, and offensively, man, Blake Bortles can take advantage of this Kansas City defense. I realize Blake Bortles isn't an elite quarterback again, but when he's had a good rushing attack behind him and facing subpar defenses, Blake Bortles has actually put up some very respectable numbers, and I think he can do the same here. Now, maybe this is going to be a little bit of an upset here, which I don't think it should be, considering that this is going to be by far the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has faced. I like the Jaguars to win this game. I think defensively, they're going to be able to force Patrick Mahomes into some mistakes. Now, I still expect the Chiefs to be able to go ahead, put up some points here, so I wouldn't necessarily say that the Jaguars defense shuts them down completely because, man, they've still got a plethora of weapons and a head coach that's, pretty special in Andy Reid. So I still could see the Chiefs putting up 20 points, 20 plus points, but ultimately I think the Jaguars make a couple of more stops here. And even though that offense for the Jaguars isn't nearly as good as that of the Chiefs, defensively, the Chiefs, I think, aren't going to be able to slow them down as much as they would like. So I like the Jaguars to go on the road, get this victory. And as far as the spread goes, Chiefs are favored, minus 3.5. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and say the Jaguars win this one on the spread as well. Moving on, we have got the New York Giants at the Carolina Panthers. Giants 1-3 after losing to the New Orleans Saints, getting blown out late in that game, while the Panthers 2-1 after coming off from that bye week. And look, even though I think the Giants offense has more playmakers than that of the Panthers, that offensive line is looking troublesome, and now they get a very tough matchup versus a Panthers defensive line that has been pretty good at getting at the quarterback, and that is definitely their forte defensively. Now, by no means is that Panthers offensive line something to write home about, but the fact of the matter is they have a more mobile quarterback by far in Cam Newton who can make up for that. So for that reason, I give the Panthers the edge in this game overall. Defensively, I think they're going to be able to do enough to limit Eli Manning when it counts the most. I expect several turnovers from Eli Manning, and ultimately I think the Panthers win this game at home, so I give them the edge outright. As far as the spread goes, it is minus 6.5 for the Panthers. I think they can go ahead, cover this game, win by at least a touchdown, so give me the Panthers on the spread. Next up, we've got the Oakland Raiders at the LA Chargers. Raiders at 1-3 after needing to make some magic happen versus the Cleveland Browns in overtime, but nonetheless, they got that first victory, while the Chargers, sitting at 2-2 And look, it was a closer game than I anticipated versus a 49ers team without Jimmy Garoppolo, but Chargers were able to take care of business, get the victory. Now at home versus a Raiders team that, honestly, I think they were lucky to beat the Browns last week. I think the Chargers offensively are the better squad. I think they have more explosive guys. I think Keenan Allen, especially Melvin Gordon at the running back position, is a big difference maker, and I believe Phillip Rivers is going to have a huge game here. Defensively, man, it's tough to pick a team that's played too much worse defensively than the Raiders. And even though the Chargers looked like there were some question marks defensively last week, I think they still have more playmakers defensively than the Raiders. So all around, I give the edge to the Chargers here. I like them to win outright. The spread, -5.5. I think, like I said, this will be a high-scoring game for the Chargers. So to me, they win this game by at least a touchdown. Give me the Chargers on the spread. Moving on, we've got another NFC divisional clash with the LA Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. Rams still undefeated, 4-0 after an absolutely juggernaut offensive performance versus the Vikings. Everyone got in on the action, and Jared Goff completely balled out. While the Seattle Seahawks, man, they needed some magic late via Sebastian Janikowski, but they were able to put away the Arizona Cardinals, and they got a nice victory. Now they are back at home and hosting the LA Rams, who, by all accounts, look, they are better offensively. Russell Wilson is the only piece, in my opinion, offensively that is better than what the Rams have at that position. I think he just has more intangibles than Jared Goff, but he's going up against the better defense. Offensively, the Rams have the better line, they have the better receivers, they have the better running back without a doubt. So the Rams get the edge here. It's tough, and I realize these divisional games, some wacky things can happen, especially since this game is in Seattle. But the Rams are going to go ahead, win this game by all accounts. On the spread, this is where it gets interesting because this is the Seattle Seahawks +7.5. And look, I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say that it's a little bit closer. I think it's actually decided by 6 or 7 points. Again, I think the factor that this game is in Seattle. Seattle plays the Rams tough usually. So I'm going to go ahead, say Seattle can actually cover on the spread while the Rams win outright. Next, we have a rematch of the NFC Championship game of last year. Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. But man, both these teams are underperforming. Vikings at 1-2-1, while the Eagles at 2-2. For the Vikings, tough loss versus the Rams. But what are you going to do when the Rams were just executing the way that they were? At least you can go ahead and say positive takeaway. The Vikings had a chance late in that game. The point that is a worrisome one is that Vikings defense, because it hasn't looked like the defense of last year. And for the Eagles on the flip side, look, even though they lost versus the Titans, I do think Carson Wentz is getting better and better every single week. Now, I will say, to me, both these defenses have some question marks here, so I'm going to look at the offenses and say that is going to be the deciding factor in this game. And to me, the better offense here is the Minnesota Vikings at this point in time. I like Kirk Cousins better. I like the offensive weapons he has better, especially with Thielen, Diggs, and Kyle Rudolph. Now, to me, I don't think either of these running games is going to be particularly a big difference maker, so I'm calling that a wash. And ultimately, I say the passing attack of the Vikings is what gets it done here. I like them to win this game outright on the road. Spread -3.5 for the Eagles, so I'm going Minnesota on the spread. Next up, we've got the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers, and unfortunately, I think this will be one of the tougher games to watch this week. Cardinals at 0-4, 49ers at 1-3, and at least both teams made it interesting last week. Cardinals ended up losing on a game-winning field goal by the Seattle Seahawks. 49ers at least kept it again interesting with CJ in at quarterback, considering Garoppolo is out for the entire season. And even though the 49ers might be at home and might have the more balanced offense, I'm actually going to go ahead and say I'm giving the edge to the Cardinals here, primarily because of the following. I think the two best playmakers on the football field on Sunday are going to belong to the Arizona Cardinals, and that is David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald. Look, I don't think it's going to happen every single week, but I anticipate big games from David Johnson and Fitzgerald this week versus a 49ers defense that, again, isn't as good without Jimmy Garoppolo. Even though he's the quarterback, look, it all precipitates down. It affects the defense as well. So I actually see the Cardinals getting their first victory here on the road. A little bit of an upset, but I like them outright. On the spread, 49ers, the favorite, -4.5. Kind of expected, but since I like the Cardinals to win outright, I'm going the Cardinals on the spread. Getting to Sunday Night Football, we've got the Dallas Cowboys at the Houston Texans. Cowboys 2-2 courtesy of a game-winning field goal, while the Houston Texans 1-3 after getting their first victory of the season versus the Indianapolis Colts. And look, even though the Cowboys might have the better record, I got to give the edge to the Texans here, primarily because I think they have the more explosive offense. And look, I realize the Cowboys have Ezekiel Elliott and that offensive line, but honestly, up until last week, Zeke hadn't had that kind of breakout game, hadn't had that proper usage that he should have like we saw last week. So it'll be interesting to see if that continues this week versus the Texans. But the true difference maker to me here is going to be Deshaun Watson versus Dak Prescott. I give the edge to Deshaun Watson big time, primarily because of the pass catchers he has in DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. And to be honest with you, I don't think the Cowboys have even anyone as good as Will Fuller on their own set of pass catchers. So I like the Texans better offensively. I realize the Cowboys probably a little bit better defensively, but as long as the Texans can stop Ezekiel Elliott, they should get this victory. So I like them at home outright to get this victory. On the spread, however, Texans at -3.5. I'm actually going to take the under here because I do think it'll be a close game, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the end the Cowboys get, again, a similar maybe 1 or 2 point margin of victory, courtesy of a game-winning field goal. But ultimately, Texans outright, Cowboys on the spread. Finally, getting to Monday Night Football, we have got the Washington Redskins at the New Orleans Saints. Redskins coming back from a bye week, face a tough test on the road in a Saints team that offensively is one of the best teams in the league, and now they get Mark Ingram back. Look, Alvin Kamara was already playing like the MVP of the league. Now he gets his running mate back. They already have Michael Thomas, the Saints, as a wide receiver. And even when Drew Brees had his first subpar game of the week, that rushing attack of the Saints was able to carry the day versus the Giants. Ultimately, I think the Saints are going to be just too much to handle offensively for the Redskins. I think the Redskins have a more well-balanced defense, but again, I don't think they'll be able to keep up with the New Orleans Saints, so I give the edge to the Saints here. I like them to win this game outright. The spread, -6.5. I feel pretty confident in saying that the Saints will be able to go ahead, win this game by at least a touchdown, so give me the over on the spread. So with that, we finish up our pick'em games. Now looking at our locks of the week, starting with the Patriots on Thursday night. Give me the Patriots all the way versus the Colts. Fact of the matter is, Colts are just missing way too many key players right now, and the Patriots get Edelman back. They're the more well-balanced team. I like them to continue their winning ways on Thursday night in Foxborough. Next, I like the Titans over the Bills. And the Bills, even though they're at home, I think right now just can't contend with too many teams in this league. Titans are more well-balanced offensively, defensively. Should be a simple one here. Give me the Titans. Next up, Baltimore at Cleveland. And the fact of the matter is, this is going to be the best defense that Baker Mayfield has played so far. I think that Ravens defense is going to travel well, and I think they're going to be able to take care of business, get a couple of turnovers, and let Joe Flacco seal it at the end. Afterwards, the New York Giants at the Panthers. Panthers coming off the bye week. To me, this matchup comes down to defensive line of the Panthers versus the offensive line. I give a big edge to the Panthers here, so I like the Panthers to win at home. And finally, Rams at Seattle. Even though I think this might be a little bit closer than what some people expect, I like the Rams. To me, they're one of the best teams in the league, and Seattle just struggling a little bit too much. Rams the better team all around. And with that, we finish up our look at our locks of the week as well. And as always, let me know what you guys thought. Did you agree with these picks, with these locks of the week? Let me hear it in the comment section along with any questions as well. And as always, additionally, if you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos.